Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I have an interesting little side topic for you guys because I sometimes do these. I've done things like discuss how gorillas actually gain muscle eating very little protein on a vegan diet, how elephants do the same. I've discussed things about why apes are stronger than humans, and little side topics like that. Some of it's really interesting to think about. Again, same thing of how our ancestral diets affected our cognitive ability and intelligence over the course of billions of years. These are just little interesting fitness and nutrition tidbits sometimes because they help us sometimes understand the way that we interact with the world around us in terms of our fitness, our athleticism, nutrition, everything else. And they're just fun. So, it being the weekend, I've hung out with some friends here in Texas, and there was some drinking involved, as Texans are prone to do sometimes. And the topic came up of time travel. And people were talking about what they would do if we developed time machines. And that's just an interesting topic because, humans could develop time machines one day. There's a lot of science fiction literature written about it, a lot of movies about it. It's something people are actively working on. But if it ever happened, there are practical aspects of it that some people haven't thought about. And I did when this came up because us being Texans, as you can imagine, someone invariably brought up the topic of hunting dinosaurs. Because, we hunt and kill everything in Texas. It's kind of what we do. And, they said I would travel back in time 100 million years and hunt dinosaurs. To which I had to stop and reply, yeah, but it doesn't mean you'd get good nutrition eating it. In fact, it doesn't mean you wouldn't die of nutritional deficiencies even if you had all these plants and animals to eat around you 100 million years ago. Which again made people pause. Interesting topic. I thought I would bring that up here. And that's kind of an interesting point. We as humans kind of have this idea that we can live anywhere, anytime in the world because we're so successful. I've discussed that in the past. I'll probably link that video here. But we are the most successful species on Earth at adapting our diet to whatever we find around us. That's why we can thrive everywhere from Africa all the way up to the Arctic Circle. Literally the most extreme different climates on Earth. The jungles in Africa or sub-Saharan Africa, the deserts there, versus the Arctic Circle or northern Siberia, northern Alaska, where there are various Inuit tribes. People thrived. For thousands and thousands of years, people have thrived in all those environments. They found food in completely opposite places. It's pretty amazing when you think about it, the fact that we've been able to harness food around us in these places when other species are not able to do this. And a big part of it has to do with us using our brains. Figure out ways to harvest food, how to prepare food, how to make it edible, how to cook it, how to do things with it to make it not poisonous, not full of bacteria, more easily digestible. We find processes and things to do. It is one of our strong suits as a species. We can live anywhere and find food. We take that for granted. See, the thing is, what we have in common in today's world, all of this stuff, this planet's relatively small when you think about it. There's a lot of sharing of genetic material. In fact, every animal on Earth, when you do DNA tests, we can all tell that we're not that distantly related from everything around us. That means we share a lot of similarities with them in terms of amino acids and everything. And we have an ecosystem around us that has taken hundreds of millions of years to develop to the point where it's at. Meaning we have a pretty strong overlap of all the amino acids and all of our plant proteins. The plants growing out of the ground share the same amino acids as the animals now. All these fatty acids, vitamins. Now minerals are a given, but different vitamins, things like that are so similar. There's such an overlap structurally. The things that we all eat, for the most part, are produced by plants. All the plants in this current ecosystem provide a wide variety of nutrients and nutrition that other animals live off of, we live off of, we then absorb some of them from animals and we eat them. There's a whole cycle of life here because we've developed in this ecosystem together. There's a symbiotic relationship there in terms of availability of nutrients. But what happens when you go back 100 million years or even 200 million years? 100 million years is enough. What if you double it? That was still the age of the dinosaurs. that was a different era. There have been mass extinctions since then. In fact, a lot of people don't even know that grass and stuff didn't even exist like back then. All this grass you see covering the earth everywhere now across all the continents, there wasn't grass 100 million years ago. A lot of the things that were trees back then, there were giant mushrooms all over the planet at certain points going way back past 100 million years that kind of played the role trees do. There were certainly trees, but there were also 30-foot tall mushrooms everywhere. What the heck happened to all these mushrooms, I'm not sure. Again, mass extinctions with the change that happened with the asteroid that hit the planet. A big meteor, I guess, that hit the planet made such enormous changes that whole groups of species died out and new ones rose up. Because we can't do DNA testing or test this stuff, we don't know for a fact that the plant life or the animal life back then had the exact same 20 amino acids that we generally think of now. Why is that important? Well, that's important because we have 8 essential ones that we as humans have to have in our diet or we die. Now, we can get them from a lot of foods because most foods that we eat have at least some trace amounts of all 8 of them, whether it's the broccoli you eat or even grass if you were to eat it out of the ground, or a cow or a fish or a banana. They all actually have at least small amounts, some of them obviously a lot more than others, of those 8 essential amino acids. We don't know that all 8 of those amino acids were available in all the foods back then. What if only half the plants back then had them? Or a third? And what if the animals weren't able to produce them either and they only got their essential amino acids from plants, the animals you're hunting and eating? If there's just one of those 8 missing in your diet long enough, you will die. You will starve to death. You will die of malnutrition in spite of the fact that you're getting calories. If any one of those 8 weren't in wide circulation back then like they are now, and maybe amino acids have changed around a little bit. And I mean, some people would say, well, it's unlikely they probably were. Yeah, they probably were. But do we know they were? And if they aren't, and you're trying to hunt dinosaurs and eat the local big mushroom plants, you're going to die. What about the essential fatty acids, omega-3 and omega-6? Anyone knows what happens if you go too long without eating one of those? You die. You'll die. You'll die of malnutrition. You'll die of malnutrition. So what happens if one of those two, what if omega-3s didn't exist very much back then? Well, you would die of malnutrition trying to live out there for months and months if you were to time travel back into that time period. What about the toxicity of stuff? What about those big mushroom trees? Maybe their spores are toxic to humans. You don't know. Maybe some of the dinosaurs had toxins in their bodies and skins that are toxic to humans for you to eat. Maybe there's a special way to cook it that doesn't cause it. But we know some of the dinosaurs were poisonous. We know funguses and stuff all over the world can be poisonous. How do we know this stuff back then, that the toxins in it, we haven't developed some resistance to? Because there's a lot of spores and things that we breathe in around us, and molds and fungus and stuff from these plants and fungi and mushrooms that don't really hurt us, but maybe it's because we've adapted to them. We've developed with them. Maybe the ones there will kill us. Maybe you can't eat them, or they'll kill you. It's poisonous. They're poisonous mushrooms today to us still. So it creates the interesting question of, if we do develop time travel and we travel to places, even places that seem to have foods that we could eat, maybe we wouldn't be able to eat them. Maybe we'll die. And that's just when we're dealing with stuff just in the past like that. Same thing if you go forward to the future. And we could carry this a step further. What about when we start trying to colonize space and we go to other worlds? If we do find another world that we can travel to somehow, full of a whole ecosystem with life, we might not be able to survive on it. It might all be toxic and poisonous to us. It might be lacking things that we need in our diet. We might find that we find a whole ecosystem that we can't eat or survive in, even though it's thriving with life. And the other way to think about this is it does go to show us that ultimately we're very adapted as a species, But, we have a role in the ecosystem and we are part of it. And it's something that we oftentimes forget in the modern world until we go back and look at science, that there is a circle of life. There is a symbiosis with all the food around us, the things that we eat, that we have a symbiotic relationship with those things in this planet. And if we don't get those things and we don't get all this wide variety of vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids, essential amino acids, all these things from our food, from the stuff around us that we eat, if we don't get proper nutrition from it, we grow sick, we can grow unhealthy, and in some cases we can die. We are very much tied to our food. Our food and our nutrition is something that many people, I think, take for granted, but when you really think about it, it is absolutely one of the most important things in the entire world to us. And, without it, if it's not right, our health suffers, and we can, in worst cases, die from it. And it's something I think that we need to have a little more respect for and think about a little more. And I know I'm preaching to the choir because a lot of you are fitness-oriented. You try to eat good, balanced, healthy diets. But, you need to think about those things. And just an interesting thought. And I know it's a little off topic, so I hope you guys enjoyed it at least. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.